And welcome back to Prep Recruiting Insider, PRI, here at NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale. I'm your coach for PRI, Rick Gailey, along with our Prep Recruiting Insider, Renee Nato. And we are so pleased today to have with us a legend of the game, as they may say, Chad LaRose. Chad, thank you for being here today on Prep Recruiting Insider.
Thank you, Coach Gailey and Renee. I appreciate it. And I know last year I had the invitation to come, and unfortunately I had to take the kids to Disney World. But this is second on my list of things I had to do. So I
your
appreciate
bucket list.
Thank you all for having me.
Chad, it seems like wasn't long ago you were playing for Bobby Conlon. All Metro in 1988, All Metro MVP, and All State in 1989. How did playing for Bobby Conlon prepare you for life and for college?
Wow. He was a legend before I even got there. I know when I was in 8th grade, his teams went to the semifinals. So, I mean, just the standards were always high, but he always preached things for me, Renee, like, you know, it's nice to be important, but it's important to be nice. You know, you always gotta, you know, aim high. You can't be, you know, in the penthouse on one day and the outhouse on the other day, you know. So little things that even today, 43 years old, I can take with me throughout life. But he set the bar so high for athletics at Brother Martin, and just to take that next level in college, that you know, me and Lenny Sumich, when we announce games today, we'll still quote him regularly on some of the things that he taught us.
And there's two other coaches on that staff that I was very familiar with. One of them was Chubby Marks, who coached me in JV basketball at East Jefferson way back in the day. But another gentleman that we're both very fond of, and I mean gentleman in the truest sense of the word, but a great football coach, Al Pontiff, worked with you as an option quarterback, because you eventually became a defensive back. But at Brother Martin, you were, in fact, an all-decade quarterback, looking back through my history. And, but Al also had a very big influence, not only on the way you played, but on his ideas of offense at that time.
That's true, Coach. Al Pontiff, and I'll say this to this day, he's probably the greatest coach in New Orleans never to be head coach. I mean, his work ethic was phenomenal. But at the time in the late 80s, the triple option wasn't really the vogue offense to run. But he saw the talent that we had, and he saw option as being a very potent offense against any defense, really. And my senior year, we had 3 offensive backs that were over 1,000 yards. The fullback, Pat Stack, Jason Wilson, running back, and myself. So I got to throw in Jimmy Lalonde. He was the other guy. He blocked, but you know, the thinking that Coach Pontiff had, and you know, it really. Jay Roth was coached by Al Pontiff at Rummel in the late 70s, early 80s, but you know, his same method of attacking defenses and always have an option as a place in offense against any defense, you know, that can resonate in today's football.
When it came to recruiting, Chad, you decided to head west under Terry Donahue at UCLA, Tommy Maddox, Jonathan Ogden, NFL Hall of Famer, Donnie Edwards, Matt Darby on defense, J.J. Stokes. You had some really talent. What did it come down to for UCLA? Why the Bruins? And what other schools did you consider? How was the recruiting process for you?
Wow, the recruiting process for me, it was fast and furious. We made it to state my senior year, so coaches at the time couldn't come and talk to you until after your season was over. So they talked to us before that summer, but they couldn't really talk to you during the season. LSU was a major contender. I know my older sister, Monica, she was at LSU at the time, so they were recruiting her just as much as they were recruiting me. So Pete Jenkins was the recruiting coordinator, but UCLA got on the scene kind of late. They were recruiting me and Jabbar Jalouk, a fellow St. Aug defensive back at the time. And when they were recruiting me at the time, they had the most active bowl wins out of any school in the country. So Troy Aikman was there. They were they were on the higher tier, upper echelon football teams. LSU was kind of, you know, on a rebuilding year, I guess, as a couple SEC teams were. But You know, I've never been out to California, and I guess, you know, just going out there, meeting the coaches. A.J. Kristoff had a big influence on me. He wound up being my defensive back coach. Terry Donahue, great man. He was a legend, still is at the time over there. Rick Neuheisel was the offensive wide receiver coach there at the time, so he was very influential. But I think what it really came down to was a balance of, you know, academics and athletics. My dad and mom always kept me, you know, from thinking to myself, okay, if you don't go and be this great football player, you still have to, you know, live and have a job. And so they kind of kept me in balance. And I think, not that all other schools didn't, but UCLA offered that balance of academics and athletics.
And Westwood is a fairly interesting place, especially if you're from South Louisiana and you show up in Westwood where the coaches can't even afford to live.
No, you're right.
It is amazing.
Coach, it's funny to think how many different places where people thought I was from. Nobody ever guessed that I was from Louisiana. You know, everywhere from Australia to the Bronx to Canada. But once people, you know, we could kind of communicate and they picked up on the accent. No, it's great. It really is. The Hollywood scene, you know, Urkel from the show back in the day, I had classes with him, you know. So, yeah, you see movie stars running up and down on campus. Milli Vanilli was a regular into our locker rooms, you know, believe it or not. I'm dating myself, but those are the big guys of the day. So, but it was fun. It was interesting. Some of the best times in my life. But it's the flip side of what we probably have here in New Orleans.
You know, there's a recruiting show, and a lot of young men and young ladies are watching this show and going through the recruiting process in a number of sports, Chad.
Yeah.
If you had to do it again, what's the important things you need to ask a recruiter?
What I would sit down and I would really talk to a recruiter about is what are their plans for you as a player. If you have to go in a film room and break down film of how that coach sees you playing, at what time does he see you being redshirted? Does he see you playing right away? And not only that, you know, you make sure y'all have that relationship to where he sees your goals, he knows where you want to be. You know, so many people get wrapped up in, you know, yeah, I'm going to be in the NFL in a couple years. I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread. They hear that, but once they get to the college, you can tell they're not in alignment with what the coaches see them. So, you know, I was fortunate enough to have some great recruiters that came in that were honest with me, and I asked them to be honest with me right off the bat. But if I would go back now, I'd try to tell the players, hey, look, just turn down the noise of everybody else and just get yourself a list of 5 or 6 questions to ask those coaches, hey, are you looking out for my best interest? Because this is where my goals are if I go to your school. Does your goals align with my goals?
And now, when you finished college, you coached with Jay Roth his first 5 years at Rummel and taught in the classroom.
Yeah.
And now you're in private business. You're also doing broadcasting of Brother Martin games. In the last 30 seconds that we have, talk about how your playing career, your education, and your experience as a coach has all played together in your private business and broadcasting.
Well, man, it's a good question. I think coaching, especially with Jay, when Jay came around, we were both single at the time. It was his first staff. That basically just prolonged me from being an adult, I like to say. It kept me around football. I had to stop my college career due to multiple shoulder surgeries, but it kind of kept me, you know, with football in my life. So it was fun, it was exciting, but it really did lead to, you know, where I am today in the business world and doing very well. I have a great family, but being a broadcaster now helps me retain that sense of boyhood playing football, so yes, I enjoy it.
Yes, indeed. To grow old is mandatory, to grow up is optional, and we live that credo every day. That's Chad LaRose, former Brother Martin Crusader, here on Prep Recruiting Insider at NOLA Motorsports Park in Avondale. We'll be right back after this timeout.